Noise distracting.
Okay, I'll use my hands.
Yes. Okay. Hello everyone, and welcome back to episode 85 of the Impulso podcast by Momentum Works. So today we're going to be talking about what's been happening in the food delivery scene in Korea, as well as an overall view of the competition that Delivery Hero is facing in multiple of the markets that they operate in.
Yes, South Korea to be specific. So these are the two major food delivery platforms in Korea at the moment, battling each other. Before that, you obviously had multiple competitors, but the situation now is, I think since 2021, Delivery Hero, the Germany-based food delivery group, acquired Baemin, or its parent company, Woo Brothers, which was the number one in Korean market. And recently, you have the leading player, the leading e-commerce player in South Korea, Coupang, moving aggressively into the food delivery space. So these two are battling, and the situation is shifting, which we think is interesting, and that's why we're bringing this podcast to you.
Yes, so this is what has been happening in Korea recently. Baemin has actually been increasing its delivery cost, unlike its competitors.
You mean delivery fees?
Delivery fees,
Charged
yes.
to the...
Charged to the customers.
To the
I think the merchants as well, based on some of the comments that we've read, right? And of course, their CEO, Gyuk Hwan, also recently...
Do you speak Korean?
I can read Korean.
You can read Korean?
Yeah, I can read
Okay,
Korean.
you can read the whole thing here.
It's an easy language to read.
Yeah,
I can.
because it's alphabet. Okay.
Yeah, later I read for you. So the former CEO, Gyuk Hwan, also announced that he was retiring. So we're not sure if he retired or if he was fired.
Or was it voluntary or involuntary?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what has been happening in Korea. And of course, their customers are unhappy. So these are some comments that we took online. So of course, customers
So
are
technically, you can read the whole thing as well.
I can.
But you just don't know what it means.
Yeah, I can't comprehend it. But we have Google Translate, so...
That's how we read Greek nowadays.
Yeah.
So
of course, consumers are complaining that they are taking money away from consumers. And of course, this is very different from what Coupang is doing, right? Which is why they are also switching to Coupang Eats.
So Baemin was an interesting business and was a good business. So Delivery Hero actually released Baemin's results a year prior to the acquisition. I think they need to do that because they're a publicly listed company. So you can see on this slide that, their food delivery business in Korea was profitable. They made EBITDA of 156 million euros in 2020. So it was a sound business. The company also made a decision to enter Vietnam in 2019. And those of you in Southeast Asia, you might be familiar that in 2019, lots of Korean investors went to Vietnam and invested in lots of assets and businesses in Vietnam. So you will see that Vietnam was a drag for the whole performance of Baemin, because obviously you can explain that it was the early stages, they needed to invest. But I think if you look at the loss in Vietnam, the whole group was still very, very profitable. And I think Delivery Hero got a good asset in East Asia.
And I think one of the reasons for the success of Baemin in Korea definitely was that they had a very strong founding team. So these are 5 of the,
the key
members initially in Baemin.
So we had an opportunity to meet some of them, and I would say that they are shrewd operators and businessmen. So the founder, Bonjin, interestingly had a design background. So that company had a unique culture infused with unique design, which we will see.
Which we will see that. So this is the logo and sort of mascot of Foodpanda before and after Baemin was acquired by Delivery Hero.
So basically they came, I think they formed this Delivery Hero, Baemin, whatever Asia Holdings company. So the Koreans became large shareholders. And one thing they did is that they reformed the whole Foodpanda look and feel. So the cute panda with, the clear, cartoon. It's called Pao Pao, right? Yeah, with clear cartoonish hair is the work of the people, the team they brought in. I think, compared to the pseudo Kung Fu Panda in the past, I think it's a huge improvement in terms of cuteness.
And I think you can see the difference when you're looking at Delivery Hero's Asian platforms compared to their platforms in Europe, America, or the Middle East,
so
which don't really have mascots, or their mascots are not cute. Yeah,
okay.
not as cute.
That's like the business in Asia need to have cute mascots, because otherwise you're not cute.
Yeah, it's branding. So we need a mascot too. So, of course, in addition to Baemin and Foodpanda, like we mentioned, Delivery Hero actually has a whole suite of platforms under them. For example, they have Talabat and Hunger Station in the Middle East.
Yes.
And then they also have Glovo, Foodora in Europe, and what's the name of this company?
Doesn't matter.
Pep-
They have
yeah.
some business in Americas.
It has a complicated name.
That's interesting because they are in the businesses in Americas, but not in Mexico and Brazil, the two largest markets. I think in Colombia, they are not in Colombia either. They're in Venezuela. Interesting. Yeah.
Maybe not.
So basically, in Latin America, they're not in three largest markets, which I think it's explainable because the whole strategy is to become number one in each market they're in. So through acquisition, through development, they wanted to have the leading market share in each market that they are in. And obviously, that kind of explains why not in the three largest markets in Latin America, because they have strong local players and it's a bit harder to defeat them. And what are their markets in Asia? Oh yeah, I think not in the largest market in Southeast Asia either. So they are not in Indonesia, but they are in Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand. Is that Myanmar? Yeah, Myanmar. And the Philippines, Laos, Cambodia, Pakistan, and Bangladesh.
You can see, so small. Okay.
Yeah, so I can read maps. So this is and they are in South Korea, of course. That's Baemin. Yeah, so these are the markets in. I think they briefly entered Japan. They very quickly withdrew. Japan is a difficult market for foreign tech companies to crack.
And I think, of course, despite their ambitions, they have not been doing very well, right? I mean, we know the market did crash, but in 2024, a lot of tech companies have started recovering, but we don't really see...
Until a few days ago, but yeah, so...
But we don't really see Delivery Hero.
So Delivery Hero crashed, but it didn't recover. So obviously, I think that has something to do with the investors' confidence in their abilities to remain number one while building a profitable company in all those various diverse set of markets that they are in. So you guys probably know that Momentum Works, we publish annual assessment of Southeast Asia food delivery market share, and you can see that I think Grab kept expanding their market leadership, while Foodpanda is dropping in terms of both market share as well as the absolute GMV in the region. And you will not see this level of detail in their financials because they lump everything in Asia, including Korea, which is obviously their I think we did some breakdown a few years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. I think Korea was like 70 or 72% of the entire Asia market in terms of GMV.
If you guys are curious about food delivery in Southeast Asia in general, you can check out our food delivery platforms in Southeast Asia report, which we release every year. So I'll link it in the show notes below. We've also seen that Foodpanda has made some mistakes along the way, right? So they used to be the market leader.
They used to be the
Thailand.
market leader in Thailand, and at some point of time, right? I mean, if you are in Thailand, you basically use Foodpanda. And I think they were the first one to expand their business to all the 77 provinces. But I think, was that 2021? Yes. Some of you might be familiar with the politics in Thailand. It's like constant struggle between different factions. And they made, at that time, I don't know how they made that decision. Basically, they fired some employee which participated in some protests. And I think they labeled protesters terrorists. So immediately there was a boycott. I mean, people wanted to sort of delete Foodpanda app. And honestly, I mean, me included, most of the industry stakeholders and observers will think that, okay, sure, I mean, people protest. I mean, after a week, you give people like $10 voucher, they'll come back. But they didn't come back. So it shows that some people were seriously offended by that. And it's a market share which they used to lead and which they never managed to recover. Now in Thailand, the leading players are Grab and Lineman 19. So I think they have roughly equal market share at the moment.
And we know that Delivery Hero has been trying to diversify its Southeast Asian market assets, right? Divest. Oh yeah, divest.
Yes, so it's probably means something similar. So I think a while ago, the CEO Niklas Osterberg made a pledge to investors that they would divest markets where they could not see a clear path to become market number one or profitability, or both, right? So obviously most of Southeast Asia and most of Asia, aside from Korea, maybe another one which we'll talk about in a bit, would fall into this category. So over the last year and a half, they've been in talks with different players to try to explore options to sell their Southeast Asian business or part of their Southeast Asian business. There were rumors in 2022 saying that they were selling their business in Thailand to Lineman 19. And of course, if I would like more money, I wouldn't see a need. Why would I would buy it? So last year, I think towards the end, there were discussions with Grab, there were discussions with Meituan, and I have some friends in Meituan who told me that they had very serious discussions about it, and they decided not to acquire it. I think we talked about it in the previous podcast.
Yes, we did. Year. I will link it in the show notes below as well.
Okay, cool. Thanks. You're like a library. and Grab, I think they had serious discussions until the moment that the Grab CEO Alex Hungate came to the earnings call and said very clearly, no, we're not acquiring Foodpanda in Southeast Asia. I think some people know that, okay, there was some saga happened, right? I mean, the group CEO of Foodpanda told his then or ex or whatever, girlfriend, that this discussion was going on, that then or ex or current or Schrödinger's cat girlfriend posted on social media, and then everyone knew about it. But this kind of news, once everyone knows, it becomes hard to manage. And that person was replaced, and I think the deal was eventually cancelled over price. I do hear rumors saying that I think Grab got a lot of information about the business and then decided not to acquire it.
We do have an article about this. I think it's called The Right Price for Foodpanda or something that I will link below. So it was something that Grab mentioned during their earnings call.
Yeah.
But of course, one market that Foodpanda did successfully manage to divest is their Taiwan operations. Right?
Which is kind of funny because for almost 3 years, we've been telling everyone that we meet who cares about food delivery or who wants to know something about food delivery that maybe Delivery Hero should sell all their assets in Southeast Asia and focus on Taiwan for a number of reasons. First, I think Taiwan is an affluent market. So you will see this economy is more than half of that of Indonesia. Think about it. 23 million people in Taiwan, 272 million people in Indonesia. Mm-hmm. So and also, the population of Taiwan is half that of Korea, and Korea is 70% of Delivery Hero's whole business in Asia.
And Foodpanda has been the market leader in Taiwan.
Yeah, 52% market share. So they have been doing pretty well. So if you, and also, I will not mention the reason, you guys will probably know it, that the Chinese players like Meituan will never be able to compete against them directly in Taiwan for obvious reasons.
But of course, we don't know if this merger would actually be approved, right? Because there are only two players.
Yes, and I'm sure Uber and Delivery Hero, they're from Europe and US, they have the best lawyers, the best accountants, best consultants available to help them do the assessment. I think the consultants will probably tell them that there's a reasonable chance that this will be approved by the regulators. I've spoken to about 20-25 friends in Taiwan in the tech industry and also in various parts of the ecosystem. Nobody believes that the regulator would ever approve it. So this is interesting because if everybody in the industry doesn't believe that regulators would approve it, there's probably some pressure for the regulators as well to, even if they're inclined to approving the transaction. So we don't know. I think Singapore is reviewing the Grab's acquisition of Transcap. It has been a year. So I do think that this might take some time to know the results. In the meantime, it's probably business as usual. They run each of their own business.
Actually, if Taiwan is such a profitable market or good market for food delivery, why do you think there are only currently two players in the market? So currently there's only Foodpanda and Uber Eats, right?
Because Taiwan is a relatively isolated market. It's difficult for, obviously Chinese players will not be there. And it's Chinese speaking, so which means that for whichever player to be there, it's like, it's like a Korea, right? So for a foreign player to enter, is a huge barrier, language, culture, etc. But at the same time, it's relatively isolated. So you develop. It's not like you go to Latin America, you develop the Spanish-speaking capabilities. You can go to multiple countries. It's 23 million people. Smaller than Malaysia, affluent, but it's difficult not to crack. I think that happens with most of the East Asian markets, like mainland China, Taiwan, Korea, Japan. It's difficult for outsiders to crack. So obviously, we can see that the most relevant and the most profitable markets of Delivery Hero that they have accumulated across the globe are probably under some threat. We talked about Korea, right? Mm-hmm. And the other two markets, which are very relevant for them, are the two leading markets in Middle East, Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates, UAE. So you can see that these three markets together form almost like 45% or even half of the total revenue. And these three markets, as I know, are profitable for them. So what kind of threat are they under? So we already talked about Korea. Transkeeta, after having overtaken Foodpanda in Hong Kong as the number one in terms of orders, according to our friends at the Measurable AI data tracking firm. They are actively entering Saudi Arabia as we speak.
So why is Meituan looking towards Saudi Arabia?
So obviously, Middle East is an interesting market for Meituan, and for a couple of reasons. I mean, first, people there are relatively, in Gulf countries, are relatively affluent, so their basket size is probably quite high. And because of the weather or whatever, so there's lots of demand, which is, going out has been not very pleasant in most of that region. And also, they have no shortage of foreign labor, so you don't have worry about the cost of riders and stuff being too high. So I think Meituan is going to Saudi Arabia, and it's natural to assume that, okay, if they manage to crack that market, next for them will be UAE, which is highly urban, highly affluent, and it's a significant market. And they also have some local players in Saudi Arabia, the one owned by Delivery Hero, which is Hunger Station. They are profitable. And you also have a local player, Jahez, which is publicly listed. And of course, you can see their financials, and they're profitable. So these two players, how good are they? And obviously, they're leading players in the region. But if you go
of course, despite their profitability, they don't have the best reviews. Hunger Station looks
very
like
good,
they have
right?
a decent review.
4.6, but
when you look closer at the comments, you see that a lot of them are just 1-star reviews.
I've scrolled through a few pages. I only see 1-star reviews, and it's very interesting. They have lots of 5-star reviews, but they don't have any 2-star or very few 3-star reviews. So it's not really distributed in a normal way. So I'm curious, where are the 5-star reviews coming from? But anyway, so Jahez didn't even bother to manage their
1.7. This is 18.9k reviews, and
it's
they have 1.7
right?
stars.
Yes. So they didn't even bother to manage. So I do think that if I were decision makers of Meituan, I see a lot of potential in this market. Recap. So consumers are affluent. There's natural demand for food delivery. People have been educated. There's probably enough demand, enough supply. And the labor cost is low. And of course, the existing players who are profitable are not doing a good job. So obviously, it becomes a very interesting market. And some might ask a question, why not Southeast Asia first? I do think that if I were Meituan, when I go to a market, I look for a market where I have a sure win. Because that will give me enough confidence, and my investors enough confidence that I can go to another market, one after another. Because these things are complicated to build.
And I think we've mentioned before in, I think either the food delivery event or another podcast, that the Southeast Asian market generally is just very fragmented. In certain markets like Thailand, you have a lot of players, which makes it even harder for you to come in and take the win, which might be why they are.
Thailand has one fewer player now. Robinhood shut down, I think, end of this month. And Foodpanda now has a single-digit market share, so I'm not sure how they are going to turn this around and whether there's a way for them to turn this around. So, yeah.
So we've been talking a bit about the sort of competition that Delivery Hero has been facing, and I think another problem that Delivery Hero has been facing as a group as well is that a lot of the founders of the companies that they've acquired are leaving or were made to leave the company.
So obviously, I think somebody we talked to, which is head of strategy of a competitor of theirs, and he made a, I think, kind of blatant sort of comment about Delivery Hero. He said, Delivery Hero is a large private equity group trying to combine everything together and sell a financial story, and it doesn't have operational synergy across the different markets. I think his opinion was obviously biased, but there's some truth in it, right? You acquire so many companies in so many different markets, which have very different circumstances. Which part of the business, which part of the operation, which part of the product, which part of the technology you centralize, while you still maintain certain sort of flexibility across the different markets for them to make decision making. So it's not really straightforward, and I do think that the founders of these companies, which were built to a significant scale before they were acquired by Delivery Hero, they are of strong personalities. Would they fit into macro narrative directive from Germany? I think it's a question mark. Knowing many founders myself, it's very hard for them to work under someone else. So I think it's kind of natural.
And I think this is something that we talk a lot about, especially with regards to the Pop-L leadership.
So these are the issues which determine, how a company or a tech company or any company is likely to succeed or not in their global expansion. And here we have an example of a company which has a global footprint across multiple markets. And we just keep emphasizing that leadership, people, organization, product in that order. So lots of people put lots of emphasis on product, but that's downstream in terms of success factors for your global expansion.
Just since we're talking about leadership, and maybe going back to the reason why we're doing this whole podcast as well, is that obviously the Baemin CEO left, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what we mentioned at the start of the podcast.
Yeah.
So how do you think this change in leadership will affect how Baemin is reacting to what's happening with Coupang in Korea?
I think the Baemin CEO for me is already not a leadership discussion, it's a people discussion, because it seems that now, since the founder, Boon Jin, left last year, and all the strategic decisions are pretty much made in Germany. And I do not know how much operational details that the people who make decisions in Germany would not understand about what's happening in Korea. So obviously the consumers, the merchants are not happy, and you have strong competition. How can someone in Germany make a decision for that? Will you be able to find someone in the local market who has strong ownership of the company? Not ownership in terms of like shares, but ownership in terms of the mentality, right? And also make the decisions and how to allocate the resources this way. Especially, I think Baemin is made to subsidize other markets which are loss-making. So obviously, I think as founders will not be happy about it. So I would say it's a tough situation. Yeah.
So since we're talking about food delivery and all, shameless promotion here, Momentum Works is actually planning a F&B innovation immersion to China in November this year. So we're planning to go to Guangzhou and Changsha.
So we were initially planning for that to happen in September or early October, but we got strong protest from the locals there saying that it might be very hot. And obviously, when you go there, in addition to the food innovations, the supply chain innovations, you are also being exposed to lots of spicy food. So it's a spicy, hot day and spicy food, local favorite, but for foreigners, not sure whether that combination will work out very well. But anyway, so we will check out the leading F&B concepts, look at how they innovate in terms of brand, franchise management, central kitchen, delivery platforms, operations, supply chain, etc. So I do think it will be interesting. So if you're in the space, do join us.
The link will be linked in the show notes below. You can register, and of course, we'll reach out to you to share more information. So thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Impulso podcast. We hope that you enjoyed today's episode, and if you did, do like and subscribe to our YouTube channel or Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your podcast platform to stay up to date on the latest happenings and trends in e-commerce, tech, new retail, and the broader digital economy.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.